our lives! 30 minutes for the rest of our lives!
Thank you, Tim. We are back with another edition of the UKEndZone Football Daily Podcast, and we got a great one coming up for you today. We got myself and Neil Dutton doing some very bold predictions of the NFL season. The season coming up, we got some ridiculously bold predictions in some aspects for you, and taking your predictions in as well. But I just want to apologise for some of the issues with the podcast over the last couple of days, and I thought I'd just explain that before we got going. First of all, there was an issue on Saturday where we were supposed to have a guest. They cancelled at the last minute, so I couldn't get a pod out. And Sunday night, when we did the Sam Bradford podcast, you'll have noticed it may not have gone up on the stream yet, as this one will not have done right now, and you'll be listening to this for YouTube if you're listening right now. We've got an issue with the site that hosts the podcast, Hipcast. They're having some site maintenance. It means we can't upload the podcast, basically. We want to get them out every day, so it's going to be a great chance for you to just cycle through 2, 3, however long the site's down, however many podcasts we get out there, you can cycle through them. But if you go up to UKEndZone.com, they'll all be on the YouTube channel, they'll all be on the website, so you can get them daily there. And once the site's back up, we'll upload them on the stream, and you can just chain them like you would a good Netflix series. So thanks for that, and enjoy today's podcast. Hello everybody, and welcome to today's edition of the UKEndZone Football Daily Podcast, August 25th edition, on a horrendous bank holiday Monday. It is unbelievable how bad the weather is up here in the north of England. Joining me today, we have one of the best people that works for our company. His name is Neil Dutton. You know him from the MDDF. You know him from the old UKEndZone football program. You know him from UKEndZone.com. He's a genius at fantasy football. Neil, how's it going?
That's a very, very kind introduction. Genius is a term. It sits heavily on some people's shoulders, but I kind of like it.
And we just released in the last 48 hours, was it? We released our fantasy draft cheat sheet, which I think is fantastic.
Well, it is good. I've been slightly hoisted by my own petard because I was drafting last night with another of our new writers, Andrew Symes, and his family. And Samsey was the pick before me, and 4 times he took players that I wanted, and he attributed that to, you shouldn't put out a cheat sheet then.
It was weird that we did that. I haven't drafted yet, and yet I put the cheat sheet out. We should have waited, I feel. But if people want that, go up to UKEndZone.com. If you click the tab right at the top of the screen that says Fantasy Football, it should be the first thing you see up there. But Neil, we're not talking fantasy today. No. Well, we are sort of, but not fantasy football.
Pie in the sky football rather than fantasy.
And this may be, I genuinely believe this will be the most downloaded podcast that we do of this for a while, because people love to speculate and they love making bold predictions on the NFL.
It's the best kind of way. I mean, if it was just a case of what's going to happen, don't know. That would be the end of the discussion. It wouldn't be that captivating. And I think pretty much if that was the same in any sport, people would lose interest very quickly. And
I have some seriously bold predictions. They're out there. Nebulous thoughts. So we've got mine, we got yours, we got some listener ones. We're gonna go one by one, and then we'll just roll with it.
I think we should.
All right, then. Do you want to go first?
The first one is it's not. It might not be that bold, considering that some people, the talent some people have. But I'll throw it out there now. The Bills will pick first in 2015.
I love this.
They would do if they had a first round pick, of course.
They should be picking first in 2015, and then they're going to cough it up to the Browns. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. Their team is dreadful on paper. They've Schwartz themselves by bringing Jim Schwartz into that organization. Their coach was sometimes out of his depth at Syracuse in college, which doesn't bode well for the NFL. And their quarterback is a guy who, I'm not going to say fakes injuries, but doesn't play through pain. And when he does play through the pain or just plays, he hasn't looked pretty good.
It's one of those. It's a distinction that's always made that the players, when they come into the NFL, need to realise the difference between being injured and being hurt. And I think it Seymour's, you're shown as a tough guy if you play when you're hurt. Whereas, if you play when you're injured, you're an idiot.
I also think, I can't get into E.J. Manuel's body, but just from the outside, there's been things like cracked fingers that I don't know how much it hurts, and I'm sure it does hurt, that he hasn't played through.
He's played, he's missed games when he's been, I'd say we don't, as you said, we don't know how badly hurt he is, but if he isn't the answer, the backup QB situation in Buffalo, there are better quarterbacks in my house at the moment, and I'm the only one here, and I'm certainly in no condition to play quarterback. It just looks a mess. It looks like they've spent the entire off-season leading up to camp saying, no, we're fine, we have utmost faith in our quarterback, only to realise at the last minute, Shit.
Yeah, this isn't looking good. And they traded Stevie Johnson, a big move that people forgot about, both for the 49ers and for the Bills. They moved him on draft night. It just doesn't bode well for them. And I love that defensive line is pretty impressive, but they got Jim Schwartz.
It's one of those, to quote John Gruden from the Americas game of 2002, if this defense is that good, score me 9 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. The Bills are going to need 9 touchdowns from this defense because I'd question whether their offense will generate them.
Okay, my first bold prediction is this. I believe Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, will be traded at the end of the year to the Oakland Raiders.
I think the last franchise to be involved in a coaching trade was the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
With the aforementioned Mr. Gruden.
If anyone is a guy who's of such importance to an organization where they could be traded as a coach, you're looking at a very few people in the NFL right now because there's good enough options in the free agent market where you don't need to give up an asset. But Harbaugh is one of them. There are odds about decisions. There are odds about salary. He has a year left on his contract after this one. I think someone's going to trade him. Well, I know they're going to trade him. I think someone's going to want him and want him enough to give up some picks.
Well, it could be a case of, I personally think, and this is no dig at all at them because I have the utmost respect for the organisation and most of their fans. The Raiders need to clean house at the end of this year, regardless of what they've done, because I think Reggie McKenzie has made an absolute pig's ear of it. He inherited a bad situation, but I think they've gone about fixing it from when they got back to once they cleared the books.
It was bizarre, wasn't it?
It was, what they've done since then has been a bit like, I'm sorry, you're doing what? I worked under Ron Wolf. Lovely story. Ask yourself this: would Ron do what you're doing now? And I think Dennis Allen has never been able to get them into a defensive unit of which he should be proud of as a defensive coach. So you think if they clear them out and bring in Harbaugh's probably going to want either to be the GM himself or at least have one of his cronies do it. Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
I think he's going to be a guy like Pete Carroll where you make me vice president of player decisions or I ain't coming. And if you're giving up a pick for him, you want him to be there happy. Otherwise, he's not going to turn up to camp himself. There'll be a coach camp holdout.
That would be bizarre. If they do have that, they have to be on Hard Knocks. That first week would be awesome.
Would anyone... He's the only man who would do a camp holdout as a coach, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Because he has this, he was a quarterback, so he still has this star quarterback mentality that if he's not happy, he's not coming. So he would have no compunctions about literally sitting at home. Jim, you coming in? Nope. Playing golf in my khakis.
I agree. Your second bold prediction?
My second one, linked in with that, Matt Schaub will be a free agent before the Raiders touch down in London.
Really? Mm. Can they cut him free of charge?
I don't think they can cut him free of charge, but I think just looking at him, listening to what's coming out, it sounds like put him out of his bloody misery. he sounds like it's. I think it was Patrick Crawley of our friend from NFL.com said if he lost an arm, the Raiders would continue to put him out there throwing left arm just to prove a point.
Not to put in Matt McGloin.
Exactly. It just sounds like he's a broken man, not just a broken quarterback. It sounds like he's forgotten how to do things, and it's just torturing the Raiders fans that with their 2009 talent roster level. He's a huge weak link, and they can have James Jones, they can have Streeter, they can have all these other, for want of a better word, weapons. If this guy can't throw it more than 14 yards, there's no point.
Yeah, they're in serious trouble. The organization's a mess. And I love what they were doing, especially as a draft, Nick. I've made this point before. When you love the draft, the Oakland Raiders for 2 years have been terrific. Because all those guys who you wanted to see instantly, who were like 3rd and 4th round picks, who became like the guys you loved going in and were banging the table for, all ended up on the Oakland Raiders and all played week 1. And then for some reason, they made this crazy decision to go and sign everyone from 09, 010, who was pretty decent, and get themselves back in a cap mess that Reggie McKenzie inherited.
Well, it's as a wise man once told us, time is a flat circle. Everything we do, we will repeat. So he's thinking, well, I came into a crap cap situation, so why shouldn't the next guy?
That was a really good bold prediction, by the way. I like that one a lot. Number 2 for me, this isn't that bold, but not many people will have it. I think a team not named the Broncos and Patriots will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
That is linked to my next bold prediction somewhat, in that I have the Pittsburgh Steelers being the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Okay, I love that. That is the team I'm looking at. I'm looking at them and the Ravens. They're the only 2 teams that have that sort of inner mentality within themselves to go and do it, whereas I don't trust the Colts, the Chiefs, who I think are going to bomb. I don't trust any of the other teams outside of those two.
It's a much changed roster since their last visit, but there's still a strong element of the 2010 Steelers that went to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And this team has had back-to-back 8-8 seasons. They haven't won, haven't been in the playoffs since they got T-bowed. They've gone from being old and slow to young and dangerous on defense. Ben Roethlisberger sounds like he's going to be allowed to be the field general that he wants to be, the throwback to the 70s quarterback. And I just think, I just have a funny feeling about them.
So do I. I'm all in with the Steelers this year. So you're rolling with them as well?
Well, it links back to what we said about the Broncos. The Broncos were 13-3 last year, but this year they're coming off. They're playing the schedule of a team that lost the Super Bowl, so they're playing everyone first place. So last year they run up the score on teams to get Peyton Manning to the record, and they did. They can't deny it. There's no point denying it. They did that. They run up the score, and no one made a fuss about it.
Yeah, because it's Peyton, and everyone loves him, and he faced the NFC East, which may be the 4 worst defenses in the entire league, particularly as a division. And now they got the NFC West.
Yeah. Exactly. It's going to be tougher. Obviously, I'm not saying that I'm not going to go stupid and say the Broncos aren't going to make the playoffs. I'm not that crazy. But I just think that if they want to get back to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to do it the hard way.
So you got the Steelers as the number 1 pick. That's your third one?
Yes, that's my third one.
Oh, the number 1 seed even. My third one is Tom Savage, rookie quarterback out of Houston. Well, not out of Houston, out of Pitt, but playing for Houston Texans now. Some of you may not know. Will have more wins than any other rookie quarterback.
That is bold.
Even if you come in like week 8 in that team, I mean, is Bortles going to have a ton more than 5? Is Bridgewater going to have a ton more than 5? Is Johnny going to play enough to get to 5? I mean, that is a loaded team. The team defensively is loaded. We made this point the other day. I can't remember if it was with Josh or Nick. If you get your team to 17 points, 2 touchdowns, and a field goal, you are in business and in every game with the Houston Texans.
The defense is very good. It's one of those. It's a case of if that defense is that good, I'd be challenging them. Score me some points as well, because it's an uncertain at the moment until Savage, who may or may not exist, comes in. You've got Aaron Foster, who's seriously dinged up, and he's dropped down my fantasy board, certainly, and I know everyone's impressed by that. I had him going in my top 12, 13. Now, someone else can have him. I'm not interested. In fact, I have passed on him in 3 different drafts.
He's the he's been killed by a scheme change as well, and no one's talking about it. He was an unbelievable zone running back, and now he's getting up there in age, and now he's playing in a man system. I just don't know if he can play in that system.
It's one of those. He was the perfect Kubiak zone blocking scheme running back, and I say that's gone now. So it's like, hey, you're absolutely buggered because you missed 10 games for injury last year. Yeah, run and hit that gap. Go on, hit it. Oh, you need to come off. Okay, fine. So then you've got questionable talent at backup running back. DeAndre Hopkins seems to have taken this playbook on a little bit more than he took the last one on, which was a worry last year how slow it was. They're not. They're not with one of these teams. Oh, it's a good time to have the first overall pick because we're that strong anyway. You're not.
Yeah,
you're really not. Your offense is a mess. The advantage you have is you're playing the AFC South.
Yeah, I like that for them, and I also like Bill O'Brien to figure out something on the offense to get them to at least 14 points, and then just hope for the best from there, from the defense and from field goals and stuff. So, I don't know, he only needs 5 or 6 to be competitive in that category, I think.
Yeah, I say it's not going to be. I don't think any rookie quarterbacks will be making the Pro Bowl this year. Let's say that. I
agree. What's your next one?
It's linked again to the AFC South. The Jacksonville Jaguars will have a winning record.
Wow. I think I predicted them to go 8-8 if I remember correctly in the pods I did. I love Gus Bradley. I dislike the team because of the attention they get from fans over here. It just frustrates me. But I believe in Gus. I like some of the signings. Blake's looked pretty good in pre-season, so it's a good prediction.
It's one of those. They are helped. They don't. A winning record means 9 wins. Mm-hmm. They play 6 games against the AFC South. They can nick some in-division wins there.
No kidding.
I mean, they play Houston twice. Indianapolis are probably, everyone looks at, the most shoed-in division winner in the NFL, apart from the New England Patriots. But that doesn't mean they're not going to go 16-0. They'll lose some games in division because, their insistence on this power running game that doesn't work, so they get 17 points behind and then turn Andy Luck loose. It's one of those. If they don't get 9 wins, they'll certainly be closer to 10 than they will to 2. I strongly believe.
Okay, my next one is based around your former head coach Andy Reid and his Kansas City Chiefs. I think they have a losing record and they pick in the top 5 in the draft.
It could certainly happen. That is one putrid offense. Mm-hmm. Reid has had in Philly. He had some bad offenses. Always had a good offensive line. Usually had a good quarterback, but he had some receivers like Todd Pinkston, James Thrash, Freddie Mitchell. Now he'd kill for Thrash and Pinkston, maybe not Mitchell. He's got, Dwayne Bowe. They're going to miss one game, and his hand is shot to pieces. And Donnie Avery. Mm-hmm. Oh, sweet Moses!
It's unbelievable. So much of it's going to be on Jamal Charles. So much will be on the rookie DeAnthony Thomas. He was once going to go in the top 10 because of the speed, and then people figured out he's just Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin got beat up all over the place. It's rough. It's really rough. And I was looking at them early today against winning teams. They went 6-1 last year, and 1-6 even. So they struggled against teams with a above 500 record anyway, which means against good teams they struggle. And we just got to come out and say it as it is. They swung and missed in that first overall pick last year really badly. Fisher looks dreadful, and even if he becomes good eventually, he's not going to be good enough this year. He's not going to make a Pro Bowl this year, and that's the only thing that could help Smith maybe get some time in the pocket. It's going to be pretty horrific to watch them offensively.
If this team, if Jamal Charles gets injured, which is a possibility, he doesn't have the most stellar injury record. If he goes down for any length of time, Jesus Christ.
They could go 1-15 if he goes
very
down.
Easily. I mean, Travis Kelce, as I'm quite big on him. It's a potential, fantasy head on. It's a sleeper candidate. But if he doesn't catch the ball and Jamal Charles isn't there to catch the ball, they've got no one.
Next prediction.
Alshon Jeffrey will have more receiving yards than Brandon Marshall.
I love that. I think the pair of them are going to be the most devastating crew again. But I think Jeffrey, they're going to drill into Cutler. Marshall's going to get double teamed. They probably won't double team Jeffrey as well because you've got Forte, you've got Bennett. You're just going to have to start trying to hit the open guy and not force it to Marshall.
I mean, I looked at this. I looked at it. The split between Cutler with the two receivers and McGowan, because I just assumed that Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler are BFF, and Cutler will always look for Marshall. He targeted Brandon Marshall the same number of times. The two quarterbacks targeted Marshall the same number of times on average per game.
So you're blowing up here a storyline that people love to throw out there. It's basically BS. It's
BS. The only difference is he targeted McCown targeted Jeffrey more than Cutler did, but he still looked on average for Marshall 10 times a game. Cutler looked for Jeffrey 7 to 8, whereas McGowan was looking for Marshall 10 times a game, and Jeffrey was 9 or 10.
Do you know if there's a big discrepancy between them? Because when I watch them with the eye test, I do see him look at Marshall a lot and then just check it down to Forte rather than go to the second read over on the other side.
It may well be. I'd not looked that deeply because I was just looking at the receivers, but the stats when McGowan was quarterback, how many times he looked for a third wide out rather than a tight end or a running back. It was literally McGowan went Jeffrey or Marshall and then checked down, whereas Cutler would look for Earl Bennett or whatever other clown they had as the third receiver.
All right, then. I like that one. That's a good prediction because it's going to become true because it's already happened almost. My fifth one, and I'm sorry to the city of Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills will be sold and will be relocated.
That would be a tragedy for the NFL, as Buffalo is, it's from the AFL days. It was one of the founder members of the AFL on the Crazy Eight. I just missed when I came into the NFL. I was a few years behind their Super Bowl runs, but having been in 4 consecutive NFC Championship games and never getting there, they got to 4 Super Bowls and lost. I mean, that's a lot of heartbreak. I think if they were anything else, it'd be a shame because I think they've endured an awful lot. Although when we spoke to Patrick Crawley, the Buffalo Bills did vote their most memorable moment was Scott Norwood's miss. That's a franchise that has serious self-esteem issues.
I love this franchise. This is why I'm devastated by even making the prediction. I just think it's going to happen. I don't buy into at all the theory that Roger Goodell's from Buffalo, New York, or wherever he's from, and so he's going to keep him there. He doesn't care. He works for the owners. If the owners vote that it's best in all our best interests that this team moves to Montreal or wherever Bon Jovi wants to move them, that they're going to do it.
Yeah, always.
They don't care. It's the bottom line. Your next prediction.
That's it. That's my 5 bold ones.
Okay, that's your 5 bold ones.
I've warned myself out how bold they all were.
Okay, I got some more here. Okay. Number 6 for me. Brandon Weeden starts 8 games for the Dallas Cowboys.
I would take the under, but not very many under.
This is the theory is basically looking at his back. I mean, Neil Dutton, I don't want to speak out of school here, but you're a guy with a troubled back. I mean, Can you imagine stepping onto a professional football field?
I mean, it helps him that the Dallas Cowboys offensive line is bloody good.
Yeah, it really is.
But it's bloody good because it's built on the premise of we're going to be ahead in some games so we can run the ball. They're not going to be ahead in very many games because the defense is going to suck. So it's going to, they're going to be worn down. Romo's going to be open to much more pressure against fresher pass rushers. It's one hit. That is it. That is his leash. I say I'm not a doctor because I never really tried. He's one bad hit away from being done by all accounts. I think I was listening to it was Ross Tucker, someone he spoke to. He's one bad hit away from end of career, not end of season, end of career.
It's really bad.
That's such a short leash to go out and someone you're paying $20 million a year to give him that small crumb of comfort. You can get hit once. Oh, no.
And this is
not for me.
These are the two things that I think people are forgetting when you look at the fact that he may take hits. One, you get hit sometimes when it's not a sack. A guy will release the ball and get hit. It happens all the time. Just because it's not recorded as a sack doesn't mean he wasn't nailed to the ground. That's going to happen to him all the time. Like you said, they're going to be behind the games all the time. So it's not even just getting hit, it's throwing the ball. He's only averaged throwing the ball above 40 times once, and that was the year he got injured anyway. So the back will not hold up, I don't think, that if you have to just throw the ball physically that many times a game.
Jerry did the right pick. That's going to start to lose steam very quickly.
You know what's going to happen? Poor Stephen Jones, who tried to garner some good press from being the guy who pulled the Johnny Manziel card out of his dad's hand, will become the villain because they'll be like, we should have drafted Johnny Football.
Oh yeah, they'll have that for years. They will have that if Roma gets hurt and is done, they will have that for years. You had him in your hand and you didn't take him.
Okay, number 7. Kirk Cousins will be traded for a conditional 2nd round pick. I'm getting specific here.
I was talking to someone on Twitter last night who said, would the Rams get Cousins? And of all the names that this lad had fired at me, Cousins is the only one that made any sense. I mean, he's... As someone did famously say, and I will name him, Mainsy did say he was the 3rd best quarterback in the NFC East last year. And I will always remind him of this. Cousins has looked better than RG3 in camp. Lovely story. So what? They're not paying RG3, and they're not banking. Jay Gruden did not come to Washington to coach Kirk Cousins.
He did not.
So you play great. You build your own value up after actually playing last year, dropped it down, and then you're gone.
He is the premier camp quarterback. No one sounded and looked so good in camp and then sucked so much relatively in actual games. It's unbelievable the difference between the stories you hear and then when you watch him play.
It's like being the 5th bowler in a 4-man attack or the 7th batsman in a top 6. You'll always look better because you're not in the team.
I don't know if I'm being overly harsh here, but I kind of like Matt Barkley, and I know he's not going to have an NFL career, and he's looked pretty dreadful. But is there a difference between Matt Barkley and this guy? And is Mark Sanchez not equally as good?
You leave the Sanchez alone. We'll look after him for a year, and then we'll see what we can get from him.
He may be starting if Nick goes in the toilet.
He's shown, obviously, only against second teamers, but these are still NFL athletes. He can move this offense.
He can do, and
it's a quarterback friendly system built on the run. So you're saying to any quarterback, you don't have to win this for us. Or best case, you're not going to lose this for us. I have faith.
Okay, number 8. Roger Goodell ramps up the pressure on the players' union over concussion protocols. Essentially, Roger Goodell, and I tweet him all the time to no reply about the concussions that I see around the league all the time, and it amazes me that Ryan Fitzpatrick is still allowed to play. It amazes me that Wes Welker is still allowed to play football after he suffered the 3rd in 12 months. You know how bad that is? These guys have no idea, because it doesn't affect them immediately, how devastating it will be in 10, 15 years for them to have had 3 in 12 months. And he gets all the blame, and I think he's going to start twisting that PR wheel of, I want to do this, and the Bad Players Association won't let me. They're the guys who are allowing themselves to get concussions.
It depends. With Goodell, you always get the impression it depends what battle he's interested in fighting at that particular moment. If there's a battle he's losing, like people asking him, so tell me, Josh Gordon forgot about him?
I think he has.
Then he'll go to his next battle as, oh, I'm going to get harder on concussions. Or it's, well, why have we got a team in London? Oh, well, concussions. When it's an answer he hasn't got, he will always fall back on concussions because that's his, as we've talked about this before, when he leaves office, if he can be the commissioner who made football safe, that will always be his lasting legacy. But it's one of those, you just don't know how much power he actually has to do anything about it.
You really don't, but they can at least get the PR wheels moving of it's their own fault, sort of, but they won't allow us to put protocols in where it says if you get 4 from a neutral doctor, you're done.
Well, I mean, we're hearing this now. Apparently, Welker's concussion wasn't that severe because of his big concussion helmet.
Does it matter? He's had a ton anyway.
I know.
Does it matter how severe it was?
It's one of those, it's always, I say, it's the iron he will always keep simmering in the fire to wave when he's losing all the battles.
Okay, I got 2 more before we get to some of the listener ones. Number 9, and I love this guy, and I'm so high on him that I would take him in the first round of fantasy football draft right now. Toby Gerhardt is going to be a top 5 rusher.
Well, if they're to have a winning record, it will be built on them pounding the rock, and he's their leading rusher. He's their main running back. Todman, give me a break. So if they're going to win 9 games, they're going to pound the ball with Gerhardt, and the chances are if they win 9 games and he averages 110, 120 yards rushing, he could get up around 1,500 yards, which is usually the baseline for winning the rushing title. So he could well do it.
And with top 5 sounds high, but if you go back through the top 5 rushers year by year, there's names that will astound you that they were actually the 5th best rusher in the league.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think, was it Adrian Peterson was only 1,100 yards last year? I say only. Well, it's more than I can walk now. 1,100 yards. Wasn't he top 10 still?
Yeah. I mean,
it could happen. He's put it this way, he's gone there to work. So it's not, they're not going to say, they've not built him up, they've not paid him to just say, oh, come off the field. No, he's going to be an option.
Okay, final one for you, and I hope you're sitting down, Neil, because of that back. Colin Kaepernick will win the MVP.
More chance of Cutler winning it.
Really?
Yeah.
You think? I think they're going to unleash him, and it's going to be devastating to watch. And the defense is going to be hit by injuries, by suspensions, and we'll realise that Colin drove this team this year. I've
got this in the back of my mind, and I'll phrase it as polite as I can. I think the 49ers have a real chance of stinking this year because that defense it's a paper fortress. It's not as strong as people are thinking about because of the losses, the uncertainty of players at some positions, and the fact that for 3 years they still haven't had a secondary.
I agree, but don't you just trust in Vic Fangio to figure it out? I think he's one of those guys where you just sort of trust in him.
I'd like to, but no.
And I know this one's ridiculous because Peyton Manning's already won it. They may as well just start carving it in. Doesn't matter what Aaron Rodgers does, they're going to give it to Peyton anyway.
Yeah, as I say, when he retires, it will be called the Peyton Manning Trophy for the most valuable player.
Okay, let's do some listener bowl predictions. Ready for this?
Go for it.
Big T, our friend Big T, says Romo's going to get hurt, which I said, and the Cowboys go 2-14, and they pick first in the draft.
Tony has been banging the Cowboys picking first drum for quite some time.
Is Tony a Cowboys fan?
No, Tony's a Patriots fan.
Oh, good. Oh, excellent.
But yeah, he's been holding on to that for some time.
Okay, then. I agree with you, Tony. He's going to get... I just said Whedon will start games. I didn't even need to say what the record was. We know what that means. Cameron Blake, another Pats fan. Tom Brady will throw more TDs than Peyton Manning. What has Cameron been smoking recently? We need to have internal discussions about this.
I do think so. There's, I'm no lawyer, but the term conduct detrimental. We've got to protect our shield.
I know we've got to protect the brand here, Cameron, with some of the verbs, some of the words coming out of your mouth. Is there any chance, because you got Amendola, you got Edelman, if Gronk is healthy, always the big if, Vereen's going to play as a slot wide receiver, any chance at all he just lights it up?
No, because unless they're playing at Wembley or playing against really bad teams, the hoodie doesn't run the score up. And so he's not going to say to Brady, right, we're 42-10 up here in the fourth quarter, throw 2 more. He's going to say, right, we've won this game, 4-minute offense, kill it. Mm-hmm. So he's not. I mean, it's not. And I said, it should be an improved receiving core, especially if Gronk is fit. This isn't the 2007 Patriots. Mm-hmm. And the defense is going to be better, so they're not going to have to score 48 points a game to win. Peyton will throw more touchdowns than Brady. I have little doubt.
Mm-hmm. And if he's not thrown enough by like week 15, they'll make sure he's thrown enough. Are we
Of
right?
course.
Oliver McCarthy sends in 3 here, 3 pretty good ones. One of them's farcical. NFC North, 3 NFC North teams will make the playoffs: Packers, Bears, Lions.
Of the divisions in the NFC, if one was to allow 3 people entrance into the playoffs, it would be the North. But that doesn't mean I think it'll happen.
You're not buying into the Cardinals in the West?
Cardinals, I think, are another defense that sounds better than it's going to look. I think they've lost an awful lot of key pieces, and their big one last year was you can't run on them. Now, you might be able to.
Oliver also says the Jags will make the playoffs. If they're going to go 9-7 like you project, will that get them the playoffs?
It's, as I say, the NFC, the AFC, there's a division, there's probably only the Patriots are going to come out the East. The North is going to be a shootout, because literally, again, that's another one. 3 teams could come out, or 1 team. I think 2 will come out with the West. They've got a chance.
They got a chance, what you're saying.
Yeah, that's how bold I'll be. While the record is 0-0 now, they have a chance.
Number 3 and the most farcical one is Matt Stafford will win the MVP.
Next.
Okay then, we got Adam Nichols. He says the Seahawks will miss the playoffs.
Not the first person I've heard with this point of view, because I think a few people are questioning. I know Mainsy is as well. Now that they've won the Super Bowl, are they going to have that same desire now that they are there to be shot at rather than the ones doing the shooting? But no, I think, as I've said, I have question marks about the other contenders in the West. I think they win the division. So the last time I checked, winning a division does get you a playoff berth.
Al Schultz says Sammy Watkins will lead the NFL in receiving yards. Who's going to throw him the ball?
Sammy Watkins won't lead the Bills in receiving yards.
J.B. Garwood, the Bears will win the NFC North.
A lot of people like the Bears because they're still, they're going, Cutler, the QB guru. Yeah, but he needs to play more like McGowan than Cutler for this to happen. It's still the Packers division for me, but it's not that bold to say the Bears will win it. It'd be bold to say the Vikings will win it.
I agree. This wasn't as bold as we needed for the pod, Jamie. I shouldn't even give you a shout out. Controversial Maggie says Mark Ingram will win Comeback Player of the Year.
No. It's very bold.
I asked, I believe it was Mains I asked about this. How do you qualify for that? Because I always assumed it was just through injury. If you miss the year or 6 weeks, however they qualify it through injury, you qualify. But when you look at the odds, it's just players who have been bad. Who sits and decides this guy's ready for it because he was just bad last year? It
used to be if you were Chad Pennington, you won it. But now it can be, if Tom Brady only threw 25 touchdowns last year, if he throws 30, that's comeback player of the year. But Ingram, comeback player of the year, coming back from what? He wasn't injured. He just wasn't very good. And again, it'd be bold if it happened. I don't know what the odds are. We can ask Mainsy.
Isn't comeback that they were once good, something happened to them, and they come back to being at a similar level? If you've just always been bad, how can you come back from anything?
It's more of a breakout. I mean, the comeback for that would be he's had a good game. He goes back to a season of anonymity. Yeah, that's his comeback.
Yeah, I agree, man. Raymond Coates says the Vikes will start 1-3, then Teddy Bridgewater will come in and turn them into a 10-6 team. They make the wild card.
I buy half of what he said.
As in they improve under Teddy?
No, as in they start 1-3.
Okay. You're not buying Bridgewater?
I don't think he's going to come in and turn them into a playoff team. I'm tempering my expectations because of how much lavish praise I was prepared to offer players last year on the basis of Norv Turner as their offensive coordinator. I seriously got my arse bitten last year, so I will just say Norv will do a good job with them, but they're not a 10-6 playoff team.
And finally, JNYE, which is just a great Twitter name. Tom Brady will be the number 1 fantasy quarterback and will win the MVP.
I have publicly stated that Tom Brady will be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Mm-hmm. For that to happen, I need Gronk to stay fit. Mm-hmm. But he's still not going to win the MVP.
He should have won it last year. I'm going to bang this forever. That if Peyton hadn't padded his stats and broke records, who was more valuable to their team than Tom Brady?
It's that thing, isn't it? Peyton Manning should have won the MVP in 2011 when he missed an entire season, because that summed up how valuable he was to that team.
That'd be great if they did that.
Oh, that's how good. I mean, who was it? Was it John? It was someone. It was what's his name? Carlo Nash at Norwich got the supporters player of the year. Didn't play a single game. because as a protest, they voted for him, and he had to go along to the awards ceremony and collect it.
That's so rough. Why would you do that to yourself?
Oh, I'd have the entrance music. I'd have the sparkliest Pharrell Williams suit you could have. I'd make a big deal of it. But the same as if I won the Razzie for the worst supporting actor, I'd go up and I'd be crying. I'd be giving that speech.
I just want to thank my mum. Do we have any more bold predictions before we go?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I boldly predict that my back will be sorted by the time the season finishes, but there's more chance of Josh Gordon's hearing results being known.
Who's going to go first, your back or Romo's back?
I'm fairly confident with the amount of rest I get, his.
I agree. I'm taking Romo.
Because mine's already gone. So I've already got the winner in this race.
All right, then, Neil Dutton, thank you for joining me. We'll get you on again soon. People love hearing you. It's crazy. You've built like this inner institution within US sports media that is Dutton. Do you realise this?
I am. I'm to quote a great man. I'm kind of a big deal.
You are. So we'll get you back on. We'll probably do some fantasy stuff before the season gets going, and we'll speak to you next week at some point.
Okie dokes.